Think of someone you do not especially like. Not someone who hurt you. Not a declared enemy. Just someone you do not really connect with. A distant acquaintance. A co-worker from another department. Someone you run into once in a while. And if they disappeared from your life tomorrow, it would not make the slightest difference. Now think about how you feel when that person seems not to like you, even though you do not care about their opinion, even though you know they have no real importance in your life. There is still some discomfort. Small, maybe. But it is there. You may not even notice you are doing it, but pay attention. You still smile more when they are around. You still try to sound pleasant in the conversation. You still feel a subtle sense of relief when they laugh at something you said. For a person you do not even like. And if you stop to think about it rationally, it makes no sense at all. Why spend any energy trying to be seen in a good way by someone whose opinion, as you yourself admit, does not matter? The most common answer people give is, I am just like this. I like being liked by everyone. It is part of my personality. But this explanation hides something much older. Because this need for general approval, even from people who are irrelevant to your life, was not born with you. It was born hundreds of thousands of years ago. In a world where the opinion of anyone in your group, whether you liked them or not, could literally decide whether you survived until the end of the month. Come back with me to a world where the word irrelevant simply did not exist when it came to other people. No cities filled with millions of strangers. No possibility of ignoring someone you do not like and never crossing paths with them again. No option to exist side by side with people who do not matter to your life. Your ancestor lived in a small group. 30, 40, maybe 50 people. And here is the fundamental detail that changes everything. Inside that group, there was no one who could be treated as irrelevant. Every person mattered. Not because they were all close friends, not because there was a genuine connection between all the members, but because your ancestor's survival depended on the entire network of the group, not just on the people he liked the most. Think about the concrete logic of this. Imagine that inside that group, there was someone your ancestor did not feel much affection for. Maybe this person was difficult. Maybe they had a personality that did not match his. Maybe there was simply no personal connection between the two of them. But this person still took part in group hunts, still contributed resources that were shared among everyone, still could, at some point, be the one keeping watch while your ancestor slept, still had a voice in decisions that affected the whole group, including decisions about who received more resources and who received less. If this person developed a bad impression of your ancestor, even without any direct conflict between them, the consequences could spread. They could speak badly about him to other members of the group. They could subtly, but really, influence collective decisions. They could, in a moment when resources were scarce, remember who they considered less valuable to the group. And here is the crucial point. Your ancestor had no way of knowing which relationships would become important in the future. The irrelevant person today could be essential tomorrow. The distant acquaintance could become the hunting partner of the next season. The person you did not especially like could be the one who decided, in a moment of crisis, whether you deserved help or not. Faced with this uncertainty, the human brain developed a strategy that seemed, at first glance, inefficient, but that was actually brilliant for that context. Instead of carefully calculating which relationships deserved investment and which did not, the system simply treated almost every relationship as potentially important. Maintaining a good general impression, even with people you did not particularly like, was a form of insurance. A social insurance that protected against an unpredictable future, where you never knew exactly who you would need to depend on. The individuals who neglected this insurance, who only invested in keeping good relationships with the people they genuinely liked, ran a real risk. When luck turned, when resources became scarce, when some important decision had to be made by the group, these individuals discovered, in the worst possible way, that they had fewer allies than they thought. Those who maintained this wide network of approval, even with effort that seemed unnecessary, had a wider safety net when they needed it. and over hundreds of thousands of years, this tendency was selected and deeply engraved into human behavior. The need to be seen in a good way not only by the people you love, but by almost everyone around you. Even the people you do not like. Even the people who rationally, you know, should not matter. The reason why you still make an effort to be liked by people you do not even like has a precise explanation within evolutionary psychology and social neuroscience. And it begins with a concept that completely changes how we understand human relationships. It works like this. First step, human beings did not develop only deep bonds with a few important people. At the same time, they developed a system for maintaining a general reputation that operates almost independently from personal affinity. The evolutionary anthropologist Robin Dunbar from the University of Oxford, known for his work on the cognitive limits of human social relationships, identified that the human brain developed specific abilities to track not only direct relationships, but also the social reputation of each individual within the group network. Dunbar argues that gossip, often seen as trivial or negative behavior, was actually a crucial evolutionary mechanism. It allowed information about who was trustworthy, who was cooperative, and who had a good reputation within the group to spread quickly among all members. And here is the central point. Your reputation did not depend only on how the people you liked saw you. It depended on how everyone saw you, because everyone participated in the information network that determined your overall social position. Second step. This pressure for general reputation created a specific psychological mechanism that researchers call social status monitoring. The psychologist Mark Leary from Duke University, whose work on what he calls the sociometer we have already explored in another context, describes an internal system that continuously monitors, almost always outside of awareness, the general level of social acceptance you are receiving from the environment around you. And the crucial detail in Leary's work is this. This system does not automatically distinguish between people who are important and people who are irrelevant to your life. It monitors signs of approval and disapproval from practically anyone you interact with, processing each interaction as relevant data for your overall social status. Why would the system work in this apparently inefficient way? Because, in the environment where this system evolved, there was no reliable way to know in advance which relationships would become important and which would remain irrelevant. And as we have already seen, making a mistake because of too much social caution cost much less than making a mistake because of neglect. Third step. There is a specific neurological mechanism that explains why this search for general approval happens so automatically and is so hard to turn off voluntarily. The social psychologist and social neuroscience researcher Naomi Eisenberger, whose work on social pain we have mentioned before, identified that the brain processes signs of possible social rejection or disapproval by activating circuits related to physical pain, regardless of who is sending those signals. This means that when you realize someone does not like you, even if that person is practically a stranger in terms of real importance in your life, the brain activates alarm circuits similar to those that would be activated by the disapproval of someone close to you. The intensity may be lower, but the mechanism is the same. And there is a clear evolutionary reason for the system to work this way. If the brain had to make a conscious and careful evaluation of how much each specific person matters before deciding whether it is worth worrying about their opinion, this process would be too slow for an environment that required fast and safe responses. It was more efficient, in evolutionary terms, to simply treat the disapproval of any member of the group as a signal that deserves attention, and leave the fine-tuning for later. Fourth step. There is also a specific phenomenon that explains why this need for general approval is so persistent even when the person consciously decides they should not care. The psychologist Roy Baumeister, whose work on the disproportionate weight of negative events we have already explored, identified that the need for social belonging is one of the most fundamental human motivations and one of the hardest to suppress voluntarily, precisely because it operates at a level that comes before conscious rational thought. Baumeister describes the need for belonging as something close to a basic biological need, comparable in some ways to the need for physical safety. And here is the most revealing part of this research. The intensity of this need does not decrease significantly, even when the person consciously evaluates that a certain social bond has little practical importance. You can rationally know that the opinion of a distant acquaintance will not affect any concrete aspect of your life, and still feel that same subtle discomfort when you realize they do not like you. Because the part of the brain responsible for this rational evaluation is not the same part that is generating the discomfort. The rational evaluation happens in the prefrontal cortex, the most recently developed region of the human brain in evolutionary terms. The discomfort of social disapproval comes from much older structures, which evolved even before the prefrontal cortex reached the level of complexity it has today in human beings. And when there is a conflict between these two regions, between what you know rationally and what you feel automatically, the older system often wins the battle for control of behavior, even when it loses the battle of logic. That is why you keep smiling more, keep trying to sound pleasant, and keep feeling relief when someone you do not even like shows approval. Not because your rational mind has lost control, but because, in this specific area, the rational mind never had full control to begin with. This system worked perfectly. In a group of 30 or 40 people, where every relationship had real potential to become important, where general reputation directly influenced access to resources and protection, a system that sought broad approval, even from people without close personal affinity, was a smart survival strategy. The effort was proportional to the potential return. Then everything changed. And the brain did not get the update. The modern world exponentially multiplied the number of people a single human being interacts with throughout life, while keeping intact the same system that was calibrated for a group of a few dozen people who knew each other deeply. Think about the volume of social interactions you have today, compared to what your ancestor had. Co-workers who change every few years, acquaintances from social events that you may never see again, neighbors you cross paths with occasionally, people you meet through friends in occasional social situations with no real expectation of an ongoing relationship. And in each of these interactions, the reputation monitoring system activates, to some degree, the same protocol that was built for a group where every person, even the least close one, had real potential to impact your life. But in the modern world, this potential often simply does not exist. The person you met at a party and will probably never see again. The co-worker from a different department you cross paths with once a month in the elevator. The acquaintance of an acquaintance who shows up at an occasional social event. For most of these people, your reputation has no real and measurable impact on your life. But the system does not know that. It did not get the update about how many people exist in the modern world and how little most of them will actually matter to your path. Imagine the scene in a split screen. On one side, your ancestor trying to maintain a good relationship with every member of a group of 40 people, because each one of them had real and lasting weight in his life. On the other side, you making an effort to seem pleasant to someone you met 5 minutes ago at a party and will probably never see again. The same emotional effort being dedicated to an interaction with almost zero potential impact. And the digital world has made this disconnect even more extreme. Social media puts you in contact with hundreds, sometimes thousands of people. Every like, every comment, every reaction becomes a signal that the reputation monitoring system processes, still using the logic that every person might be important. The result is an approval-seeking system working on a scale it was never built to handle. You spend genuine emotional energy trying to be seen in a good way by strangers who comment on your posts. You feel the weight of a single negative opinion on a platform where thousands of people did not even see what you posted. You adjust your behavior and your words to please audiences of people who, in any other historical context, would never have had influence over how you live your life. And there is one more element that the modern environment has introduced, and it is worth understanding carefully. In the ancestral world, the approval you sought came from people with whom you shared a common fate. If the group prospered, everyone prospered together. There was a real alignment of interests behind the need to maintain a good reputation. In the modern world, Many of the people whose approval you seek do not share any real fate with you. There is no alignment of interests. There is probably no future reciprocity. But the system keeps treating their approval with the same emotional seriousness it would give to the approval of someone whose well-being your own survival depended on. The result is a chronic emotional cost, spread across hundreds of superficial interactions, using psychological resources that could be focused on the relationships that truly matter in your current life. So what changes when you understand all of this? The first thing is recognizing that this constant search to be seen in a good way, even by people you do not even like, is not a weakness of character or a lack of self-esteem. It is a social insurance system, built over hundreds of thousands of years, still operating exactly as it was designed to operate. The system is not broken, but it needs something it never had before, a conscious filter that it cannot create on its own. The evolutionary anthropologist Robin Dunbar, whose work on the cognitive limits of social relationships we have already mentioned, suggests something relevant here. He identified that even in the modern world, human beings maintain a limited cognitive capacity for truly meaningful social relationships, a number that is around 150 people. What this suggests in practice is that, although the old system continues treating every interaction as potentially relevant, there is a real distinction between the relationships that actually make up your network of belonging and safety, and the hundreds of superficial interactions that the modern world puts in your path. The difference is not in turning off the approval-seeking system. That is not possible. The difference is in consciously recognizing, in the moment the discomfort appears, which category is at play. When you feel that discomfort because someone you do not even like seems not to approve of you, before spending emotional energy trying to fix that impression, you can ask yourself, is this person part of the network that my current life truly depends on? Or is the old system treating something as urgent that in today's world simply is not? Not to eliminate the discomfort, but to give it the right weight. And there is something even more freeing in this understanding. The fact that you care about the opinion of people you do not even like does not reveal any personal weakness in you. It reveals that you carry a social system so old and so well built that it continues working perfectly, even in a world that completely changed the rules of the game without ever warning it. Your brain is not being needy. It is paying for insurance that, most of the time today, simply no longer needs to be paid. And recognizing this difference is the first step toward consciously choosing where your emotional energy truly deserves to be invested. If this video made you see your own brain in a different way, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Because in the next videos, we will keep revealing the ancient mechanisms that still silently control the decisions you make every day. There is much more to come, and the next one will surprise you. I will see you there.